Every few years, the United States performs a political ritual so strange it confuses the rest of the world. The government shuts itself down. National parks close, employees go unpaid, and headlines read like a countdown to chaos. But what actually shuts down? Who keeps getting paid? And why does this keep happening in the world's largest economy? Under the Constitution, Congress controls all federal spending, and no agency can spend $1 without its approval. The law that enforces this is the Anti-Deficiency Act, which makes it illegal for any federal agency to obligate funds not appropriated by Congress. When lawmakers fail to pass a budget or a short-term extension called a continuing resolution, the money legally stops. The shutdown isn't a power outage, it's a paycheck pause. Essential services such as defense, border control, and air traffic continue, but hundreds of thousands of civilian workers are furloughed. Ironically, most get back pay later, turning unpaid work into delayed expense at taxpayer cost. So why does this keep happening? Because the federal budget has become a proxy war for ideology. In a divided Congress, both parties know a shutdown doesn't just freeze government, it frames the next election. Republicans call it leverage to control spending and reduce a $34 trillion national debt, warning through Congressional Budget Office data that deficits are unsustainable. Democrats call it hostage-taking, arguing that fiscal discipline shouldn't mean cutting healthcare or food assistance. Both are partially right. Shutdowns don't meaningfully reduce debt, but they do shape public opinion. Every time government funding lapses, misinformation floods the internet. One recurring claim is that undocumented immigrants keep getting federal benefits while citizens suffer. In reality, according to USCIS and the Department of Homeland Security, undocumented immigrants do not qualify for federal programs such as SNAP, Medicaid, or housing vouchers under the 1996 Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act. Only emergency services, like hospital care and disaster relief, remain accessible. Even lawful permanent residents face waiting periods before they can receive most benefits. Some states continue limited aid using their own tax revenue, which sparks confusion online. Those dollars come from state budgets, not Washington. That leads to another big question. How long could states keep programs like SNAP running if Congress stopped funding them? The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program is administered federally but distributed through states. When Congress misses a funding deadline, the USDA relies on carryover and contingency balances, unspent money from prior appropriations. As of 2024, those reserves average roughly $3 billion, or is enough for about 1 month of benefits nationwide. Beyond that, states can tap rainy day funds to bridge the gap temporarily. Combined state reserves reached about $136 billion in 2024, according to the National Association of State Budget Officers. At first glance, that sounds huge compared to $9 billion per month in SNAP benefits. But that $136 billion isn't dedicated to one program. It covers education, infrastructure, emergency response, and every other state function. If, hypothetically, every dollar of it went to SNAP, it could fund benefits for roughly 15 months nationwide. In reality, legal limits and competing obligations mean states could stretch food aid for 1 to 2 months at best before treasuries strain. Next question. Why do members of Congress keep getting paid when everyone else stops? The answer is written directly into Article 1, Section 6 of the Constitution. Legislators shall receive a compensation for their services. Their pay is funded through a permanent appropriation that doesn't depend on the annual budget. It was designed to protect independence from executive influence, not optics. Today, it looks tone-deaf. Some lawmakers donate or return their pay during shutdowns. Others don't. Both sides then weaponize the optics. One calls it greed, the other cites the law. Every shutdown also becomes a messaging war. Republicans stress fiscal restraint. We're fighting runaway spending. Democrats stress human impact. Families can't pay rent. The 2013 shutdown revolved around healthcare funding. The 2018-2019 shutdown over border security lasted 35 days and cost the economy $11 billion in lost GDP, according to CBO reports. Each time, the political damage outweighs the savings. Social media then amplifies half-truths. Politicians are paying illegals instead of veterans, or the government has trillions in secret reserves. In reality, the U.S. Treasury's daily statements show cash balances that fluctuate but are bound by law. Agencies cannot borrow from one another. Defense cannot use education's funds, and the USDA cannot raid NASA's budget. Federal spending is compartmentalized by statute. The truth simply isn't meme-friendly. Who's right in principle? Conservatives are correct that federal debt has grown faster than revenue and will constrain future spending. Liberals are correct that cutting programs during economic stress worsens recessions. Both points appear in IMF and CBO analyses. The problem isn't arithmetic, it's timing. Fiscal restraint during expansion can be healthy. Austerity during crisis can be harmful. Shutdowns accomplish neither. They are political theater mistaken for policy. Historically, shutdowns are a modern invention. Before the 1970s, agencies kept operating even without budgets. The change came after the 1974 Budget and Impoundment Control Act and a 1980 Attorney General ruling that the Anti-Deficiency Act requires closure without appropriations. Since then, America has endured 22 funding gaps and 10 full shutdowns. The cycle is predictable. Deadlines loom, negotiations fail, the government halts, outrage peaks, polls shift, and a continuing resolution restores funding until the next showdown. Meanwhile, 800,000 federal employees go unpaid or furloughed. Essential workers like air traffic controllers and border agents still show up. Museums close, research pauses, local businesses near federal offices lose income. Wall Street rarely panics. It's seen this movie before, but Main Street always pays for the tickets. Zooming out, combined state rainy day funds of $136 billion might sound like a safety net, but the numbers tell a smaller story. Large states like California and Texas hold more than half that total. Many smaller states could fund operations for only a few weeks. If Congress delays too long, those buffers evaporate. And if the USDA's carryover runs dry, SNAP benefits stall. That's when state and local governments face impossible trade-offs: feed residents or fund schools. Shutdowns reveal more than partisan dysfunction. They expose how fragile public trust has become. Each side markets the crisis to its base. One accuses the other of reckless spending. The other accuses backroom cruelty. Both raise millions in campaign donations during the standoff. Every soundbite is a fundraising email. Every headline a political commercial. The lesson? A shutdown doesn't prove fiscal virtue. It proves narrative control. The United States isn't broke. It's gridlocked. It collects around $5 trillion a year and spends about $6.5 trillion. The shortfall is real but solvable. If compromise were as profitable as outrage, the government's biggest deficit isn't cash, it's cooperation. So the next time a headline screams shutdown imminent, remember what's really closing. Not the country, but the conversation. The monuments will reopen, the paychecks will catch up, and the arguments will reset for next quarter's political season. What doesn't recover as easily is public confidence. This is the human timeline, where history meets the future. Subscribe for more stories that turn headlines into history lessons and politics into perspective.